Hello everyone, my name is Valeria and in this channel I talk about spirituality and esoteric topics. So today we are going to talk about the Anunnaki beings. So we are going to talk about how Anunnaki, how they were created and how they are related with the Nephilim and with Nibiru. Okay? So, when it comes to Anunnaki, it's important to know that not all Anunnaki beings are like bad or service to self. And when we talk about this bad Anunnaki, we are talking about the Anunnaki resistance, which probably is most of Anunnaki, but still, So they are behind the Illuminati beings because of the banking systems. They are also the ones that usually infiltrate in the spiritual community, in the New Age community. They share spiritual teachings like distorted spiritual teachings, like distorted mechanics of ascension, distorted activations. They tempt people with these tiny rewards, They want to tell us that we are slaves, that we came from apes, when it is them that they came from apes actually, and we are going to talk more about that also. So yes, because we create what we believe, so they want to manipulate us as a collective, they have this narrative, which is that we are not worthy enough, that we need external hybridization programs, that our DNA, that our angelical DNA is not enough, that we need more technology, like external technology, and so on. So also that we need these external gods, and they use a lot of these like covert manipulation techniques, so okay, so there are two lines of Anunnaki beings. First you have the bipedal dolphin beings that we have talked about already. These beings are mostly from Series A, but then you have also other beings that are hybrids, Anunnaki hybrids, that are like aquatic ape fallen beings, and they are in different places like in the Pleiades, Orion, Alpha Centauri, and Andromeda. Okay, so for Anunnaki galactic origins, if you wanna do a reading, if you wanna know if you have some incarnations or connections with Anunnaki, it's a good idea to really complement your astrological chart with a Akashic reading, because with Akashic records, so you want to check if you have, for example, alignments mostly with Sirius A, but also Alcyon, some stars of Orion, even Arcturus, because of the bipedal dolphins. You can also check the body, the physical body that you have there, if you are seeing like a aquatic ape or a weird dolphin, it is possible that you have incarnated as a Anunnaki being, but you also want to check the percentage of service to self or that aspect of yourself. And you want to check squares, of course, in your chart, and so much more. You want to also check your DNA strands that can tell you something about that also, and so on, so you can buy your reading with me if you want to. I'm going to link in the description box the link for the readings. Yes, Anunnaki beings, they have been involved in wars and conflicts that have involved the earth also, for a long number of years, So here we are talking about the second seeding on earth, which is way before Lemuria. And for example, here the War of the 1,000 Years is worth mentioning. So, as we learned in the video about Nephilim and Seraphim, that I will let in the description box also, the Anunnaki proceeded to bring forth a race of beings that were human, Anunnaki beings, and hybrid, and they were called Nephilim. So they entered the earth like 900,000 and a bit more years ago, and they had more developed genetic codes in a way, than Anunnaki beings and than humans. So they dominated humans, and they created this civilization that was really materialistic and was advanced civilization, actually advanced in terms of technology compared with what was before, So they were basically exploiting other beings and kind of less evolved life forms, They were doing these genetic experiments that sometimes it is talked about when people talk about Atlantis, these experiments that involved this animal and human hybridization, and that was really bad for the genetics of humans, of the angelic humans. So then, as the Elohim beings, as they also interfered in a moment with the Nephilim, so then Anunnakis, they really wanted to use humans as a worker race, as slaves, to really for gold harvest, because beings from Sirius A, they needed gold, and you can understand the love for gold of some ancient civilizations, which is really interesting. And yes, there was this intergalactic war between Elohim and Anunnaki for the earth and also for humanity in a way, for the future of humanity. So this was the War of the 1,000 Years, it lasted like 1,000 years, So here some humans, they had to retreat in the inner earth, in order to be safe, and some went to other star systems, and Nephilim, they were relocated to Sirius A and then to Nibiru. So then Elohim and the Anunnaki beings, they negotiated a treaty through which, both Anunnaki and Elohim would assist in the third seeding. So the third seeding is all about Lemuria and Atlantis as we understand them. And so here it was agreed for the Nephilim that they would not return to the earth, but they were allowed to evolve in other systems. So here a new Anunnaki and human hybrid was created, and the condition was that Anunnaki had to follow the law of one, and so this hybrid was also called Anu and was a human Anunnaki hybrid from the Melchizedek human lines. And this being entered into the earth during this third seeding. So all this situation created some division within the different Anunnaki beings, within the Anunnaki and the other beings from Sirius A that were these blue Syrians that were following the law of one also. So not all the Anunnaki agreed to this treaty, and those who were still a threat to the earth were banned from earth, actually from visitations to the earth, and they became this Anunnaki resistance. Also there were some beings from some Draco hybrids on Sirius A that also were part of this Anunnaki resistance. So then you have these new Anu beings that, for those beings of the Anunnaki resistance, these beings were like the only hope for their kind of hybridization and reintegration into Earth. So these beings were actually a target for infiltration by the Anunnaki beings, the Anunnaki resistance, because you need a prototype of being that is actually compatible with your genetics if you want to enter a system, and they also wanted to expand these Anunnaki codes on the earth, and they wanted also to manipulate the earth from inside the earth, So the civilization on earth prospered, and the Syrian Council allowed beings from Atlantis and Lemuria to receive these gifts from other races, from galactic beings, and so really quickly different technological aspects of the civilizations started to develop. And here is when we as Lemuria and Atlantis civilizations, we received these large crystalline power generators as a well-intended gift actually from Sirius A, and here we were able to actually access multidimensional frequency and those are the ones that also caused the destruction. Okay, so most beings of the Anunnaki resistance have been living on Nibiru. So Nibiru was an organic planet actually of this solar system. It was, I believe, our 12th planet, I am not sure, but now when we talk about Nibiru, it's more of a, this like a great ship from Nibirian beings, also Anunnaki beings. So these beings, Anunnaki, when they are on Nibiru, they experience like cycles. So they are in the first density for a while in this big ship, this Nibiru. This is what we understand as Nibiru, this chip, this big chip. So they are in the first density for a while here, and then in the other part of the cycle they are in the second density in Sirius, in the Sirian system. They are in the second density on Nibiru actually, so it's like this chip, this big chip, it has an opposite orbit, so it's like the planet Nibiru, it has every 3,600 years this Nibiru, this planet, it changes its location, so it's like they have a time that they have on Sirius, in the Sirius system, but then Nibiru would move like to a really, dark place. So they have this inorganic orbit with this big chip, and they then in those times they come near, close to the Earth in the first density instead of the second density on Sirius, So these beings, they have been coming to the Earth, and they had control over our solar Stargate, which is Stargate number 4. So this Stargate, they forced our Earth's Templar into artificial alignment with Nibiru actually. So here you have the Nibirian Council of 9, and these beings betrayed, the Gordian beings, and they shared the Stargate number 4 control with fallen beings that were on the 11th dimension. So yes, this Stargate, it has been like a really conflicted Stargate, actually, a really conflicted space, So as we talked about in the Merkaba video, it is due to the artificial reverse Merkaba spin of the Earth, of the Merkaba field that is on the first density of the Earth, which Nibirians orchestrated actually, that the Earth and thus humans, that we have been really mutated into having more particle density instead of the natural blueprint for the first city, you know? So here I want to briefly mention that the theory of humans descending from apes is a lie. It is a manipulation from Anunnaki beings, especially, and actually Anunnaki beings, they are the ones that came from apes. So here, before Atlantis fell, here, some genetic engineering was used to combine portions of the angelic human DNA template with the Anunnaki strain, and using a Anunnaki primate DNA, So the Neanderthal was upgraded, and then after some thousand of years of evolution on Earth and other genetic upgrades, this Neanderthal, it actually received these upgrades, and this being became the Homo sapiens 1, or this hybrid being between Anunnaki and humans, or Anu Melchizedek, if you want to call it like that. So these beings were hosting this hybrid of beings. They were hosting fallen angelic souls, because again, you need certain body with certain genetics in order for your DNA to be compatible and to be able to incarnate. So these were fallen beings that were looking for redemption, actually, and so they shared some of the DNA strand templates with that of the humans, with angelic humans, So this is why they looked kind of similar in a way. And these hybrid races, they could, but they were not supposed to, but they could actually procreate with human beings. And because there was this compatibility between some of the lower DNA strands between hybrids and humans, and this made these hybrid races a target for the fallen angelic beings that wanted to incarnate on Earth, and then it comes all of this that we know, that these beings, that fallen angels, fallen beings were intercoursing with female humans, they were procreating with human females in order to they were trying to, in a not organic way, they were trying to improve their own genetics and their own DNA, and also to have like beings, like childs that had a higher DNA, and that they then were able to influence and manipulate. So then all of this situation in later Atlantis, this led to an invasion, actually. So by the thousands or so, a covenant was created that was Anunnaki in nature, and the plan of this covenant was to capture the earth, and their project was called Phoenix. So in this project, Anunnaki fallen angelic races of the phantom matrix, they motivated their Anunnaki beings on Earth to attempt to gain this dominion over the Earth by opening a wall in time that existed between the Earth and Phantom Earth in this Phantom Matrix. You know what I mean? So this wall in time is an artificial frequency band, a barrier that was placed as a portion of the Earth's planetary tiles where had been drawn into black holes, into the cycle of the phantom matrix. So here by the 10,000s BC in Atlantis, the Anunnaki beings, they created a wormhole frequency bridge between Atlantis and the phantom matrix planets of Nibiru and Tiamat, and so this was a hole in the wall, you know, and this was called the Phoenix wormhole or Phoenix matrix. Okay, so the plan here was to merge the Earth tiles with the ones of Nibiru and Tiamat, so that a part of the body of the Earth was going to, you know, burn up, and the portions that were able to actually survive this black hole transition would emerge in the second density as a inhabitable moon to Nibiru, you know. So this is what Anunnaki beings wanted, but then the guardian beings, they intervened in Atlantis, and you know, the fallen beings were sent back into the phantom matrix, and the founders patched these holes in the wall in time. But again, then some of the Anu beings that were on Earth, they opened the wormhole again, and you know, as there was this Nibirian crystal temple network on the Earth, the Earth Templar became really distorted, and here, you know, the rest of the story. The buildings on Atlantis were destroyed also, and this event also caused for humans to really lose the memories of humanity, memories of the potential of humanity, and memories of, you know, all of these experiences. So you can see that since the covenant that Anunnaki beings created, they have intended that the Illuminati beings help with Anunnaki infiltration and the takeover of the Earth via this savior, space brother, external gods, and holographic implants deceptions. You know, so the Illuminati hybrid beings, they are the earthly representatives of Anunnaki and even some draconian fallen beings, and they have been behind the human politics since the fall of Atlantis. So these Illuminati hybrids, they are, a minority within the earth, but they are usually in positions of greatest power and influence. So behind this global political and economic affairs, so these Illuminati beings, they are incarnates from the fallen angelic beings collectives, that these collectives control the Illuminati beings. So then, coming closer to these days, here I am talking about the 1930s. The Anunnaki beings, they began a covert campaign to really awaken their Anunnaki Illuminati hybrid humans, because these Illuminati beings, they were helping other beings, like beings from Zeta, because they were giving them more, tiny objects, weapons with that, So then these Anunnaki beings, they started with the transmission of, channeling contact with the Illuminati beings and with humans, mostly within the private sector, people that were living their lives, and this was when we talk about mind control, mass mind control, but it started on a really selective way, they were really careful at that moment. And so people, they started to help without knowing the Anunnaki agenda, actually. So, all of these channelings and all of these events, they have to do with the New Age, in a way, with the New Age community. This is why some people, they are spiritually awakened, but they really don't like the New Age. And yes, so I believe we need more of a middle ground, probably. But yes, using your discernment and with your heart chakra really open. But yes, this was the main intention of the old ET contact and channeling, So these beings, Anunnaki beings, they have been behind the wars. And now that we are in a similar situation in a way, it is so fun when people say that talking about starseeds, about galactic beings, is so ungrounded and false, fake, a fairy tale, escapism from reality, and so on, It's yes, okay. That's part of the trap, actually. So, different groups have joined with service to others agreements actually, but then they have deserted. So this is why you need so much discernment when you are being contacted by different beings. So for example, here you have the Ashtar command taught lineages, more collectives from Nibiru and Sirius A and so on. And again, they tried so hard in Sumeria, for example, to teach about this false god, this false, father, masculine god, and this have been the narrative also in different religions, which really try to enslave us on a covert way. They teach you how to put everything outside of yourself and how you need to look for salvation and how you are, a sinner in a way. So yes, this has been all the plan behind that. So yes, well, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments. Remember that we have this space where you can send your questions about galactic beings and the spiritual science, and I am going to answer them in future videos. So yes, remember to subscribe to this channel if you enjoy this content, and thank you so much for watching.